We are witnessing extraordinary economic uncertainty. Even if we're not experiencing it equally, the impact of rising prices is being felt by everybody. But the impact of declining prices is only being felt by some people, and that's one reason why so many people want to know where does the money disappear to in a recession. People have become accustomed to seeing their cash balances grow with each passing month. When people lost their jobs or had their hours reduced at work during the pandemic, they started receiving benefit checks from the government. These were added to their stimulus checks and any refunds they received from their taxes, which brought their total cash balance to levels they had never seen before. And when banks offered free money with no strings attached, well, people just decided to keep saving more. This was also true for people who continued to receive their full salaries because they either didn't feel safe to spend their money or they knew the value of money better than anyone else. They could see how quickly it disappeared when times were good and people were spending everything they had, but now that things are looking up, people are noticing that their bank balances are starting to dwindle and they don't know why. There's a lot of confusion and fear surrounding this because people are realizing that they may not be able to save as much money as they did before. So where is all the money going? Well, here's the problem. We've grown accustomed to thinking of savings as an absolute number instead of a relative one. Let me explain. If your income has remained unchanged and your expenses have decreased, then your savings rate will increase. But if your expenses increase at the same pace as your income, then your savings rate will stay exactly the same. In other words, your savings rate is determined by the difference between your income and expenses. So if your income grows faster than your expenses, you'll have more disposable income left over and therefore you can save more money. But if your expenses grow faster than your income, then your savings will suffer as a result. What we're seeing right now is a combination of both of these effects at play. Some people are experiencing stagnant wages while others are dealing with higher prices, and it's the latter group that's causing most of the concern because they're stuck in the mindset of saving more money when really what they should be doing is spending less money. So where exactly is all the money disappearing to? Well, first we need to look at where the money is coming from in the first place, and that begins with our wallets. Every time we go to buy something, we hand over our money in exchange for goods or services, but once that transaction is complete, our money disappears from our wallets forever. It doesn't matter if we use cash, debit or credit, our money is gone and there's no way of getting it back. What we get instead is the assurance that we'll receive a refund or a replacement if the product is faulty or if we simply change our mind. But until that time comes, our money belongs to someone else. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing because businesses are able to use our money to generate even more wealth. For example, if I buy a suit from a tailor, he'll use my money to pay his workers and buy the materials he needs to make the suit, and after he's done, he'll have enough money to pay me back, plus a little bit extra for his time and effort, and so the money circulates throughout the economy until eventually it ends up back in my wallet again. And that's how our economy works. But this process becomes disrupted when too many people decide to hold on to their money. If everyone starts keeping their money in their wallets, then businesses won't have enough money to operate and the entire economy will grind to a halt. So we need to understand how our money circulates through the economy to see where it's going. Now, the easiest way to do this is to track the flow of money from our wallets into the economy and then back into our wallets again. This is what we call the circular flow model. And it looks like this. On the left side, we have households exchanging money for goods and services with businesses. Businesses then use that money to pay their employees and purchase the resources they need to produce their goods and services. The money then flows from businesses to the factors of production, which includes land, labor and capital. Land represents natural resources like water and minerals, while labor represents the human effort required to turn those resources into goods and services. Capital represents the tools and equipment needed to produce those goods and services. Finally, the money flows back to households as profits, which they can then save or spend. What happens to this flow of money during a recession is fascinating because it shows us how the economy adjusts to changing conditions. When a recession hits, households typically experience a decrease in their income, which means they have less money to spend. As a result, the demand for goods and services falls and businesses respond by producing less and laying off workers. With less money flowing in from households, businesses have to cut back on their expenses, which means they'll reduce their purchases of resources and capital. This, in turn, reduces the income earned by the factors of production, which leads to a further reduction in the amount of money flowing back to households as profits, and so the cycle continues until the economy reaches its lowest point. Once the economy starts to recover, however, the flow of money reverses. Households start earning more income, which means they have more money to spend. This increases the demand for goods and services, which encourages businesses to produce more and hire more workers. As a result, more money flows into businesses from households, which allows them to increase their purchases of resources and capital. This, in turn, increases the income earned by the factors of production, which leads to more money flowing back to households as profits, and so the cycle continues until the economy returns to its normal state. So where is all the money going? Well, it's not disappearing. It's simply flowing through the economy as it always has. However, it's important to remember that the circular flow model is a simplified representation of our economy. In reality, there are many other factors at play that can affect the flow of money. For example, during a recession, the government may intervene and start spending more money on public projects in order to stimulate the economy. This would inject more money into the system and help to maintain the flow even when households and businesses are spending less. Additionally, during a recession, individuals might choose to save more of their income, which can affect the flow of money as it reduces the amount available for spending. As we can see, there are many factors that can affect the flow of money in our economy, but the key takeaway is that the money is not disappearing, it's simply changing hands as it circulates through the economy. Understanding this can help us to alleviate some of the fear and confusion surrounding economic downturns and remind us that the economy is a complex system that is constantly evolving. So where does the money disappear to in a recession? The answer is nowhere. It's still there, circulating throughout the economy, just like it always has, but the way it circulates can change depending on the economic conditions. During good times, money flows freely between households and businesses, and the factors of production. But during a recession, the flow can slow down as people tighten their belts and businesses cut back. However, this is just a temporary slowdown. The money is still there and it will continue to circulate until the economy recovers. So instead of worrying about where the money is going, we should focus on what we can control, such as our own spending habits and financial decisions. By making smart choices and planning for the future, we can ensure that we're part of the solution, not the problem. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you'd like to learn more about economics, please subscribe to my channel and comment below with any questions you might have.